Oh my God, I'm sick, y'all. Hold on. We're trying to get Joy back in a second. Just hang tight. Sorry about this. Okay, we might have to reschedule this because I was passed out sick, asleep on my couch. I'm sick. I think Joy was waiting and then the meeting didn't get started. So it looks like she might have left. Plus my computer says 8 p.m. right now, but my phone says 8:24. I'm assuming that my phone is correct and not my computer. Anybody?
Take care of yourself. I mean, we can always, reschedule. Don't stress yourself out. You gotta get better.
What time is it? Is it 8 o'clock or 8:26?
It's
25.
8:25.
Why does my computer say 8 p.m.? All right. I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta talk to her and see if she can reschedule. We will get it back up and running. Maybe probably not tonight, but yeah, everybody's doing multiple things at this point. Okay, oops, Trent.
You tell her. Nah, man. Vitamin D, C, zinc, a little elderberry action. Take care of yourself.
Yeah. Um, hey Trent, we was just saying that um there's some discrepancies with some stuff over here and oh wait, it was Joy. You guys might be okay.
With getting
No, it was
with
my
this.
computer says 8 p.m. and my phone says 8:26. So I started the meeting super late because I'm laying on my couch sick.
Oh
I'm
no.
so sorry, Joy.
That's okay.
I didn't
Hi,
know.
guys.
I don't know what the heck is going on. I gotta restart my computer or something, but there's two different times from my phone to my
No, it's fine. If you're sick, I'm sorry you're sick. That sucks.
it's okay. Um, happy birthday to me, but
No.
I'm gonna lay back down and you guys got it from here. I'm gonna make you the host
Okay.
so that you can let people in
Mhm.
if you need to, and
Mhm.
people will trickle in little by little. Might have been some people waiting, but because I started so late, so I apologize about that, but thank you for being here.
No, thank you for setting this up. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about biodynamic wine. So yeah,
Yeah,
if you feel
I'm
better,
sure it's being recorded.
I think
Or
it is.
is it being recorded? Oh yeah, it does
I
say
think so.
recorded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Talk to you guys later.
All right, we'll talk later. Bye. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, so, things happen, so we're starting a little late today, but that's all good. We're going to talk about biodynamic wines. My name is Joy, and just a little about me. Like all of us, love wine. Still learning more about wine all the time. I'm a wine and spirits buyer for a wine shop in Queens in Long Island City called SquareWine and Spirits. I've been the buyer here since I've worked at the shop actually since 2016. And I was the assistant buyer, and then I've been the primary buyer since about 2021. Before that, I worked in restaurants for a few years. Helped my brother open a restaurant in Harlem, which was crazy. This life, the retail life is definitely a different vibe. Um, a little more laid back, which I love, and I really get to just study wine, learn about wine, drink wine. That's what I love doing. So that's just a little about me. So yeah, I guess I should want to check real quick in the chat and see
What's
what's
the name
going
of
on.
your brother's restaurant?
His restaurant's Boulevard Bistro on 116 and 8th Ave in Harlem. And I mostly worked with him when we opened. The original location was on Lenox and 122nd. And then once it kind of shut down and was transitioning to the larger space, I kind of left to go on my wine journey. But yeah, so yeah, I'm excited to talk more about biodynamic wine. So let's just jump in. We'll just jump into it. Um, the concept of biodynamic wine as it is today has, well, really the term biodynamic, as it applies to farming and winemaking and vineyard viticulture, has basically been around for about 100 years. Um, so basically, a lot of farming historically, meaning for like thousands of years, used biodynamic principles. Like they use this holistic sort of practice of farming. They used the lunar calendar and things like that to kind of dictate how they farmed. But basically late 1800s, early 1900s, farming became more industrialized, more machines involved, more chemicals involved. Fertilizers became more of a thing, all that stuff. So that, higher yields and obviously keeping pests at bay. So that was when some farmers started looking at that and saying, okay, these processes, yeah, we're getting more yields, but we're getting worse crops. People are not healthier consuming these things. These are not good. What can we do to make it better? So it all started, at least the term biodynamic, started with an Austrian philosopher. And I want to I always get his name wrong, Rudolf Steiner, Rudolf Steiner has a book. There's a book that a lot of biodynamic farmers read now. It's just called Agriculture. And it's his book from the 1920s. And he sort of established this concept of farming isn't about planting one crop in, one field and, just watering it, whatever, and just like crossing your fingers that it grows. Farming and anything having to do with agriculture needs to take a holistic approach to it. You need to take into account everything around it, everything else growing in that area. One specimen usually won't grow well by itself. You need to look at what other sorts of herbs and flowers and animals are needed in that environment to sort of keep the environment healthy and happy and thriving. And then an extension of that was there are also certain points in the month and in the year where certain things should be done. There's only certain days that harvesting should occur. There's only certain points in the week or points in the month where watering should occur. And a lot of that was based on the lunar calendar. Basically, there's, theories that, at the points in the month where the moon is like further away from the earth, it actually, that's actually pulling water out of plants. So those are the days of the month that you should water your plants. It's like things like that. And so this Steiner was like the first sort of person to put this in writing. And a lot of Europeans, like farmers, started using these practices, and just cutting to now, like in the 21st century, like they've done soil studies of like farms that are biodynamic farms and farms, so not like organic in the way that is codified, like where they, they're using their particular methods, and then they compare that to farms that follow like our, USDA organic certification methods. And often the farms that follow biodynamic practices, their soils have like lower levels of sort of harmful, microbes and elements that would damage their plants. And yeah, and it's just seemingly based on the system. So it's something that, kind of has gotten a rep for being a little bit woo-woo, a little, which some of it is. And I myself, even though I'm like fascinated by it, I also kind of go back and forth of like, is this really, is this all, something, does it really affect, our grapes and our wines all that much? But there's something to it. So yeah, so the 20s and the 30s, this practice grew, and was a lot of winemakers kind of took it on. In the 60s, a German farmer, she was like actually just kind of like a private farmer, but she came up with the biodynamic calendar. Her name is Maria Thun. So she came up with like the actual calendar that has like the 4 phases, which was fruit days, flower days, root days, and leaf days. And those phases are based on like basically they're based on the signs of the zodiac. So I'm gonna get this right for you guys, because this is another thing that I always mix up which one represents which one. I know that fruit days are fire sign, like are the fire sign days, the days that the fire sign, constellations are most visible essentially. And I know that because I'm a fire sign, so I always remember that one. And fruit days are also the days that they say you should harvest. So like during the harvest, those are the days that you should always pick the grapes or any other fruit, vegetable, what have you, because it's going to be, the sugars are going to be the most prominent. They're going to be the most sort of ready to be harvested. And then, hold on. And then, so yeah, and then your root days, yeah, those are the days all you should do is prune, because basically those are the days that yeah, the earth is sort of, percolating the most. That's why they also say you shouldn't drink wine on root days, because you're going to just taste kind of the earthiness, kind of the mustiness of a wine would come out. If you like those characteristics, then definitely do drink your wine on those days. But yeah, and then there is your flower days, which those are the days you just leave your fruits alone in the vineyard. You don't do anything to them. You let them just hang out and flourish. And then the leaf days are the days where you're supposed to water your plants and water the vineyard. So basically, Maria in the 1960s, she actually created like the proper calendar that the biodynamic winemakers to this day still follow. And it's the waning moon, which we have a waning moon right now. I looked at the calendar today. That began tonight, and that this began a flower day. So if you're drinking wine this evening through tomorrow, these are flower days, which means your wines supposedly are going to be very aromatic, any sort of like floral and herbaceous and sort of those types of characteristics are going to really come out in your wine. So these are supposed to be good wine drinking days. And the same with fruit days, obviously. Fruit days are the best days. It's just vibrant, bright. And root days are the worst day, supposedly. And then leaf days are more, the fruit gets muted, but it leans on like mineral character, acidity, things like that will come out in your wine. So these are the theories. They have, once again, people like in, you know, they've done studies with like CSA, not CSA, sorry, CMS and WSET, wine specialists, where they taste the same wines on 2 fruit days, 2 root days, 2 flower days, and 2 leaf days, just to see if there really is any difference, and they'll blind taste them. And it does tend to show that the same wines will show more prominent fruit and aromatic characteristics on fruit and flower days, and will be sort of more muted and earthy on root days, and will lean on mineral character on leaf days. So, it's one of those things that feels, like I said, a little woo-woo, but people in the wine world keep sort of testing it, because it feels like maybe it shouldn't be true, but there is something to it. I myself, when I do like tastings and stuff in the store, I don't schedule my tastings based on that calendar necessarily, but I have this app on my phone called it's just called When Wine. There's a pay version and a free version. I have the free version, but any given day it'll tell you if it's a root day or a fruit day or flower day or a leaf day, which is kind of fun because it's just a fun thing to kind of test yourself and see, okay, how is this drinking today? What am I tasting? Like, might this have anything to do with it? I will say in the United States, well, here's another thing. There are a lot of wines, like if you walk into a wine store and ask someone for biodynamic wines, there are quite a few wines that will tout themselves as biodynamic, but they're not. Maybe they do a little bit of you know, sort of co-planting and have some biodiversity on their vineyards, and they're sort of sustainable in their practices, but there are certifications, like the US and Europe have specific certifications for biodynamic wines. And yeah, so that's, if it's something that you kind of want to look for wines, like look for wines that usually they will say on the bottle certified biodynamic. I haven't met a certified biodynamic wine yet that doesn't want to tell you it is, so they'll definitely say it. And yeah, doing a little research on your own is also really helpful. Some really great well, wait, let me pause for a second. If you guys have any questions, please either drop them in the chat or take yourself off mute and ask me. Absolutely. I'm just kind of like talking a lot. But I can tell you some biodynamic producers that I think are really great and have some really great sort of farming methods. And I think it really helps, their wines. They certainly are giving a lot of care in the vineyard, and I think it does good things. There's a winemaker, actually, the bottle that I opened this evening, it's called, I don't know if you can see the label, it's called Cayman's Two Dreams. I'm going to drop the name in the chat so you all see it. It is a wine from California. The main winemaker, her name is Tara Gomez. She is Latina and indigenous, and one of a few indigenous winemakers in the States and in California. And she and her partner make, they mostly source their grapes. I think they've started growing grapes, but it's exclusively biodynamic vineyards and biodynamic grapes. And small production that they have, but there's quite a few great stores in New York that carry their wines. This is their Grenache. And they also make a Gruner Veltliner. I think they make like a Syrah. And their wines are really, really lovely, feel like very true to sort of cooler climate California, like really sort of good wine. So they're kind of very cool biodynamic winemakers that I like. There's another biodynamic winemaking couple in Northern California, and their wines are called Catch and Release. And they also not grape growers. A lot of these little winemakers, it's expensive to own a vineyard and grow grapes, so a lot of them are sourcing their grapes, but exclusively from biodynamic vineyards in Mendocino and Santa Cruz and that whole area. And they make a lot of skin contact wines, a lot of orange wines, all that stuff, and are really sort of diligent about sourcing from biodynamic wines. Another great winemaker, you guys might have heard of Aslina Wines from South Africa. The winemaker is Nitsiki Biala. She's one of very few Black women making wine in South Africa, and she's won many, many awards. And once she started making her own wines and growing her own grapes, she made sure her vineyards were 100% biodynamic. So she also uses that calendar for her farming and yeah. But so those are some of my faves. Has anyone here, have you guys kind of looked at biodynamic wines or kind of paid attention to what that was? Was that something that interested you before? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I always look at it. I like I said, I do like to pay attention to the lunar calendar of it all and to see sort of how do my wines taste at different points in the month. You know, what does that mean? You know, what is causing that? And yeah, it's one of those things that even a lot of the practitioners, I mean, there's there's books on it, there's articles, what have you, but it's less like they sort of they're less interested in knowing why and more just sort of committed to the fact that this works, this produces you know farming with biodiversity produces the healthiest and the most fruitful grapes. And then, harvesting on certain days and even drinking your wines on certain days, produces the best experience. So, I think it's something that is really, really interesting and fun. One great resource to read more about biodynamic wines is Wine Folly. I love Wine Folly. I think they're really thorough and fun. So there's winefolly.com, which is free. You just like register for the site and you have access to all the resources on there. And there's also the Wine Folly book, which is great. And the founder of Wine Folly also has, videos on YouTube if you want to watch her talk about stuff, which are really fun. But she has a lot of great info on biodynamic wines, which is like a fun way to learn more as you drink. But yeah, I think it's simply something to explore. And this is not to say that there are not amazing wines that aren't biodynamic either. There, of course, are. There's a million wonderful wines. But yeah, it definitely is a practice that has made a huge impact. And I will also add this, just sort of the timeline of it all. So like biodynamic wine growing and farming, started, say people really started applying it more to wine, I'd say in the 40s and 50s. But it kind of predated the like organic wine movement. Like biodynamic wine is and the natural wine movement. A lot of them by definition will be organic because they do sort of shun like the use of pesticides and any sort of chemical alteration in the vineyard. So that's kind of built in. But And in a way, actually, biodynamic wines kind of have stricter rules or stricter sort of guidelines because there's this whole like following of a calendar for when you do certain things. But the concept of biodynamic farming and that concept in winemaking has kind of been something that has been practiced longer in a way than organic winemaking in the way that we know it. In the way that it's like certified and stuff like that. And it definitely kind of was uh the it predated sort of natural wine and the natural wine movement that has been all the rage in the past 10 years or so.
I think the first time I learned about it was Wine Folly as well.
Yeah, Wine Folly is great.
Yeah, in 2020, I got in the book, and then and I think I had paid for like, there's this, it was under $100, like for one of their courses. Just giving me a little bit more, and they did, give a lot of details about that. So that was the first time that it was on my radar.
Yeah.
And then I think I had opportunity to go to a couple wine festivals in Atlanta. Not as sophisticated as Wine for Culture, fest, but it was like one of those other ones, and and I had gotten to taste some there as well. And I think there is also a vineyard in West Michigan, and they were at a wine event at the museum last year, because now I live in Detroit. So that's probably my only two exposures to it. But yeah, Wine probably had given me like a lot of the background that you shared with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like more and more, like there's a festival coming up in November, the Raw Wine Festival, which is like a natural wine festival that happens in New York. I think it's been happening, I'd say, for like it took a little break there for a little bit, but maybe 5 or 6 years, 6 or 7 years. And I've only been the past couple years, but they definitely have a pretty strong focus. It's a lot of natural winemakers, minimal intervention winemakers generally, and they definitely have a focus on natural wine, on biodynamic wine specifically there, which is really cool. So, and I think it is fun. Like sometimes side by side, like I'll be honest, I'll taste like a biodynamic. Okay, this is a biodynamic Cabernet Franc. This is, not, and taste them side by side. You won't always taste the difference, like it's, they both taste great. But I think, as we kind of, make, make choices in terms of whatever the wines we drink, the food we eat, what have you, make those choices with a little bit more intention and sort of understanding the process that went into that. It's sort of, sometimes comforting to know that, okay, well, the farmer that, was in this vineyard and, involved in this winemaking process was really thinking about, sort of every aspect of that process, and thinking about, how am I also as a grape grower, like a lot of the farmers, they're thinking about how am I also like feeding this land, like giving back to the land and not just like stripping it of all the nutrients. Like it should be a cycle, you should be adding things as you're growing things. And so that sort of philosophy for farming and winemaking and growing is I think is nice, nice to keep in mind. So yeah, I like it. I'm down with it. And I'll be honest, I still am studying it and learning more. But always happy to, talk to others who are interested in it and kind of pass along my thoughts and what I've learned. But yeah. And if any of you ever want to come to SquareWine and Spirits in Long Island City, Queens, we have quite a few biodynamic wines here. And happy always to chat about that stuff. So
yeah, I'm gonna do a wine tasting, and I do revenue management for hotels, and I actually manage TWA.
Oh yeah,
that's the JFK.
Wait a second. So did you come here?
I come there. Yeah, I come there about once a month. I have to fly to New York for some meetings.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, even if I can't get you to the hotel, I might have to take an Uber and get over there to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm on property.
Absolutely.
But
But
I do think a lot of winemakers during the pandemic at least started incorporating some of the practices, even if
yes,
they're not fully
yes.
biodynamic.
And I definitely appreciate that. And I'm definitely someone who doesn't think you need like the because a lot of the certifications, like like you have to often pay money to, get the proper stamp on your product, whatever it is for organic or biodynamic, what have you. So a lot of these winemakers, they don't want to go through that. They can't go through that, whatever. Yeah, there's definitely people who have incorporated those practices in their winemaking in the vineyard. And yeah, they they don't have the stamp, but they're doing, yeah, they're doing the work for sure. And I will say New York, like I always am trying to explore local wines, like New York wines. I will say about New York is a tough place um to farm biodynamically or organically. It is rough on grapes. So there are some farmers up in the Finger Lakes who are able to do it a little bit better, but like the wineries, even the ones that are like pretty sustainable in their practices, and they're definitely doing some good things like out in Long Island and some in the Hudson Valley, but it's really tough for them to move to fully biodynamic. So some of it is just like certain environments and climates, it's harder to not intervene in the vineyard. And so our New York winemakers they're doing what they can, but it's tough out here. We have a rough climate for growing grapes sometimes. So yeah, it would be a tough one. But any more questions? Let me drop the name. Hold on. I'm just dropping the name of the wine I'm drinking, which is Biodynamic, indigenous owned, queer owned brand from California. Um, but yeah, no questions? Anyone? Is anyone here? Are you guys drinking wine this evening? Does anyone have anything? Oh wait, are you talking to me?
No, I'm talking to my wife.
Okay, good. I was like, wait. I was like, you're on mute, but you bet.
No, she's like listening to a podcast when she came into the house and everything was loud. And I said, I want to unmute, tell her what I'm drinking.
What are you drinking?
My God, Golden Doodle. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm still in the shop, so it's quiet here because we're closed. So
A to Z, Wine Works. I hardly luck out on a Oregon.
A to Z,
Pinot.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't never find a Oregon Pinot inside because now I don't live the closest to a Total Wine.
Yeah.
So yeah, now my new supplier. So yeah, I got a bottle of theirs. 20 and it tastes pretty delicious. So
do you have the Selena wines in wait, where are you? Are you in Atlanta? Are you in Georgia? Where are you?
No, I live in Michigan now.
You're in Michigan. Okay.
Yes,
do they have Selena wines in Michigan?
What wine? I'm sorry.
Aslina, Aslina. Have you seen that one?
No, but
okay.
It's really good.
That's one of the ones. Yeah, she's great. Her wines are great, but she's a biodynamic winemaker. So hold on.
Oh, you know what? I lied. I do see this. I do see
Yeah.
red and white label. Yep. Yes.
I like the Chardonnay.
The Chardonnay is lovely. It's really, really good. Yeah, it tastes like a burgundy. It's like just so good.
It's really good.
Yeah, right now at the shop, I think we're out of the Chardonnay actually, but yeah, I have the Sauv Blanc and the Sasane, her blend, which is really good, her red blend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say she's like organic, biodynamic, all of that, you know. Black woman from South Africa just making really great wine. So yeah, her wines are really good.
Yeah, I think I tasted the Cabernet last year or during the spring. Yeah, because I be getting lazy sometimes. I do my little Instacart via Myers, and sometimes I get a good deal. And I remember that one being on sale for like $18 or something. It's usually like 30. And I lucked out on that. I do remember that one.
Yeah, I mean, when you can find a deal, I visited my family in Mississippi, and I went into like the cool wine shop in the town and was talking to the guy. And some of the wines I found, I was like, oh my gosh, wait, oh my God, this is so much cheaper. So I ended up packing in my carry-on suitcase. I checked it and I like wrapped some bottles, and I was like, crossing my fingers, and they made it home. So yeah, it's always
ever
good
come
to
out here, there's a Black-owned wine boutique called Bricks, that is pretty cool. And
Wait, what's it called?
Bricks, BRIX.
Okay.
And I know the owner there. And the thing is that I think when I first moved here, she sells out of all her South African wines so quickly. Like, you know, because obviously, you know, a lot of our clientele are Black folks like ourselves.
Sure.
And we obviously gravitate towards Black-owned brands. Yeah, she sells out of the South African one because she put me up on another one. I wish I could remember it right now, but I know the photo is in my phone somewhere. And she let me taste it, and it was like the last bottle that day when she let me taste it. She was like, I'll text you, you know, if I get another case of it. But yeah, she usually is putting me up on something new as well as far as
no, it's I mean, South Africa is one of those regions that it's people are, you know, giving it love now, but I mean, there are some amazing wines coming out of South Africa. So it makes me really happy. And there's some really great new winemakers that, you know, are getting the time and the space, you know, and they're getting imported here, which is nice, or exported here, which, you know, wasn't happening for a while. So
and they supply a lot of the wine on the continent, period.
Yeah. I mean, they are like 100%.
My partner and I, we went to Tanzania. We were in Dar es Salaam, as well as we spent 4 days in Zanzibar, and majority of the wine that we drank was from South Africa.
That makes me so happy. Yeah, that's fantastic.
You know, I was getting about a bottle, girl.
Of course.
There was like $30 US at the restaurant.
I went to South Africa in 2022, I guess it was. And like, that was the thing, like in these restaurants, these amazing wines. And I was just like, I mean, I have to take advantage of this. And yeah, it was so good. It was so amazing. So yeah, I'm glad, you know, but that's one thing that actually I remember talking to winemakers about that. And they were like, you know, yeah, Africans are drinking South African wine and have been, and now kind of the rest of the world is discovering it a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're getting hip to it finally. But all right, it is, where are we at, 9 o'clock now? We're at 9:01. Well, it was, I mean, I feel like I just blah, 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 like choose your ears off, but thank you for listening. Sorry, I know some people had to bow out, but this was fun. This was fun. And you know, hold on. for you guys. That is my, I can't spell. That is my email address. If I can write .com properly. And so if you ever have like a wine question or a wine you're curious about or whatever, you can always drop me a note. So yeah. Or if you find yourself near Long Island City, Queens, you can drop me a note. Say like, I'm gonna come by your store. So yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This was really fun, and I'm sure we'll all intersect in the Hue world soon. So yeah, keep drinking.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good night,
All
Kelly.
right. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.